Hello and welcome to quiz class. Today we have 100 questions on general knowledge. So make sure you are keeping score so you can tell us how you ranked with our quiz class Einstein rewards. And of course, tell us the answer to the bonus question. And let's dive right in. Which US president once recorded an album of his own poems and songs? Jimmy Carter, Richard Nixon, or Ronald Reagan? Richard Nixon. What war was nearly triggered by a soccer match in 1969? The Football War, the Falklands War, or the Congo Crisis? The Football War. What country has a town named Batman? Romania, Sweden, or Turkey? Turkey. In Pulp Fiction, who does Vincent Vega accidentally shoot in the car, creating one of Tarantino's most shocking scenes? Mia, Jules, or Marvin? Marvin. What 1973 song was banned by the BBC for its violent lyrics but later became a hit? Relax from Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Angie from the Rolling Stones, or Lola from the Kinks? Lola from the Kinks. On to question 6. Which Renaissance artist painted himself as a decapitated head in a biblical scene? Botticelli, Caravaggio, or Raphael? Caravaggio. What 1980s fad toy could talk using a hidden cassette player inside? Teddy Ruxpin, Furby, or My Buddy? Teddy Ruxpin. What world leader once gave a speech from inside a diving bell at the bottom of the ocean? Franklin Roosevelt, Jacques Cousteau, or Winston Churchill? Jacques Cousteau. What film scene features a shower, chocolate syrup for blood, and a violin screech? Rear Window, Vertigo, or Psycho? Psycho. Who was the first musician to perform on all 7 continents? Elton John, Metallica, or Paul McCartney? Metallica. What 1970s commercial jingle promised "You deserve a break today"? Burger King, Wendy's, or McDonald's? McDonald's. Question 12. Which country's border forms a nearly perfect circle around an independent city-state? Monaco, Vatican City, or San Marino? San Marino. In Titanic, what improvised line did Leonardo DiCaprio shout that became iconic? I'm on top of the world, she's unsinkable, or I'm the king of the world? I'm the king of the world. What 1965 song was written as a protest but became a dance hit? Eve of Destruction from Barry McGuire, For What It's Worth, Buffalo Springfield, or Fortunate Son, CCR? Eve of Destruction. Which writer penned a novel on an old typewriter he found in a pawn shop for $50? It became Carrie. Dean Koontz, Michael Crichton, or Stephen King? Stephen King. What 1980s toy became a Cold War symbol after NASA banned it from space due to floating parts? Rubik's Cube, Slinky, or Etch-a-Sketch? Slinky. What famous statue was nearly lost when it was used as cannibal target practice? The Sphinx, Michelangelo's David, or Venus de Milo? The Sphinx. What 1973 horror film became infamous for audiences fainting in theaters? Carrie, Rosemary's Baby, or The Exorcist? The Exorcist. The chest-bursting scene in Alien shocked even the cast because the director didn't tell them what would happen, filmed it in one take, or used a real animal heart. Didn't tell them what would happen. The haunting melody As Time Goes By nearly got cut from Casablanca until which star refused to reshoot scenes without it? Peter Lorre, Ingrid Bergman, or Claude Rains? Ingrid Bergman. In 1983, 45 artists united to record We Are the World. Who organized it? Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson, Elton John and David Bowie, or Bob Dylan and Paul McCartney? Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson. Contrary to myth, Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel ceiling from a rolling platform while lying on his back or standing upright on scaffolding. Standing upright on scaffolding. Which films famously used over 100 police cars in one chase sequence? The Blues Brothers, Smokey and the Bandit, or Bullet? The Blues Brothers. Which author wrote a novel in 6 weeks after losing a bet? Mary Shelley with Frankenstein, Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451, or Jack Kerouac, On the Road? Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. Which Beatle was the first to have a solo #1 hit after the band's breakup? Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney, or George Harrison? George Harrison. In which movie does a famous leg lamp become a prized possession? Home Alone, A Christmas Story, or National Lampoon's Vacation? A Christmas Story. The world's first speed limit law was introduced in 1865. What was the limit? 2 miles per hour, 5 miles per hour, or 10 miles per hour? 2 miles per hour. Which actor broke two ribs while laughing on set during Monty Python's The Meaning of Life? John Cleese, Michael Palin, or Terry Jones? Michael Palin. I wonder what they were laughing about. The red telephone between the US and the Soviet Union wasn't red. It was actually what? A secure radio, fax line, or teletype system? A teletype system. And we are already on question 30. Which car brand's name means I roll in Latin? Audi, Fiat, or Volvo? Volvo. What U.S. state has more ghost towns than any other? Colorado, Nevada, or Texas? Nevada. Which famous actor sang Happy Birthday to President Kennedy in 1962? Marilyn Monroe, Audrey Hepburn, or Elizabeth Taylor? Marilyn Monroe. What was the first U.S. city to host the modern Olympic Games? Los Angeles, St. Louis, or Atlanta? St. Louis. Which musician once legally changed his name to a symbol? Prince, Kanye West, or David Bowie? Prince. Question 35. What Cold War weapon was nicknamed Fat Man? The first atomic bomb, a Soviet missile, or the first hydrogen bomb? The first atomic bomb. What American author's house inspired the House of the Seven Gables? Washington Irving, Edgar Allan Poe, or Nathaniel Hawthorne? Nathaniel Hawthorne. What 1970s car was infamously recalled for exploding on rear impact? AMC Gremlin, the Ford Pinto, or the Chevy Vega? The Ford Pinto. In the movie Titanic, what was the name of the jewel everyone was searching for? The Heart of the Ocean, the Blue Star, or the Sapphire of Dreams? The Heart of the Ocean. What was the first European city to host the modern Olympics twice? Athens, Paris, or London? London. Which U.S. president served the shortest time in office? James Garfield, William Henry Harrison, or Zachary Taylor? And the answer is William Henry Harrison. What 1950s TV show was the first to feature a married couple sleeping in the same bed? I Love Lucy, Mary Kay and Johnny, or Leave It to Beaver? Mary Kay and Johnny. The term Cold War was coined by what writer? H.G. Wells, Winston Churchill, or George Orwell? George Orwell. What music legend was known as the Man in Black? Johnny Cash, Hank Williams, or Elvis Presley? Johnny Cash. Who was the only First Lady to win an Emmy Award? Eleanor Roosevelt, Nancy Reagan, or Jacqueline Kennedy? Jacqueline Kennedy. What car was nicknamed the Deuce Coupe in the Beach Boys song? The Ford Model A, the Ford Model B, or the Ford Thunderbird? The Ford Model B. Moving along, who was the first U.S. president born outside the original 13 colonies? Martin Van Buren, Andrew Jackson, or Abraham Lincoln? Andrew Jackson. In which film did Humphrey Bogart say, "We'll always have Paris"? Casablanca, The Maltese Falcon, or Key Largo? Casablanca. What 1950s car was advertised with the slogan, "The Forward Look"? Plymouth Fury, Ford Fairlane, or Buick Roadmaster? Plymouth Fury. The Watergate break-in occurred at the headquarters of which political party? The Republican Party, the Democratic Party, or the Independent Party? The Democratic Party. What was Elvis Presley's middle name? Aaron, Andrew, or Alan? And the answer is Aaron. We are on question 51. Maybe you can tell us how you're doing so far in the comments. The line, "You can't handle the truth," comes from which movie? The Godfather Part 2, A Few Good Men, or Patton? A Few Good Men. Which famous author wrote detective stories under the pseudonym Robert Galbraith? Agatha Christie, Stephen King, or J.K. Rowling? J.K. Rowling. Which U.S. president had a lock of his hair sold for $81,000 at auction in 2012? John F. Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln, or George Washington? Abraham Lincoln. What actress was known for the line, "There's no place like home"? Judy Garland, Shirley Temple, or Audrey Hepburn? Judy Garland. Which famous American landmark was once called "Liberty Enlightening the World"? Independence Hall, Mount Rushmore, or the Statue of Liberty? The Statue of Liberty. What city is home to the Parthenon? Rome, Athens, or Istanbul? Athens. Which 1950s film starred Marlon Brando as a leather-clad biker? The Wild One, Rebel Without a Cause, or On the Waterfront? The Wild One. The Flying Spur is a model from which luxury car maker? The Aston Martin, Rolls-Royce, or Bentley? Bentley. What famous novel introduced the character Atticus Finch? The Grapes of Wrath, Of Mice and Men, or To Kill a Mockingbird? To Kill a Mockingbird. And we are on question 60. What movie featured the famous dance between John Travolta and Uma Thurman? Grease, Pulp Fiction, or Saturday Night Fever? Pulp Fiction. What was the first color film to win Best Picture at the Academy Awards? Ben-Hur, The Wizard of Oz, or Gone with the Wind? Gone with the Wind. What amazing movies they used to make. Which car was featured in the TV show The Dukes of Hazzard? The Pontiac Firebird, the Dodge Charger, or the Chevy Camaro? The Dodge Charger. Who said, "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee"? Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, or Joe Frazier? And lock in your answer. Of course, it is Muhammad Ali. Who sang Que Sera Sera in The Man Who Knew Too Much? Debbie Reynolds, Judy Garland, or Doris Day? Doris Day. The novel 1984 was published in what year? 1951, 1949, or 1954? (1949). Question 66. What 1950s American car was nicknamed the Tank for its massive build? The Buick Roadmaster, the Cadillac Eldorado, or the Lincoln Continental? The Lincoln Continental. Which famous film ends with "After all, tomorrow is another day"? Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, or The Philadelphia Story? Gone with the Wind. The car brand Chevrolet was named after a French engineer, a race car driver, or a city in Michigan? A race car driver. What was the nickname of 1930s criminal duo Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow? The Barrow Gang, the Dust Bowl Bandits, or the Southern Robbers? The Barrow Gang. What iconic New York nightclub was synonymous with disco culture in the late 1970s? CBGB, The Limelight, or Studio 54? Studio 54. On to question 71. The phrase "fourscore and 7 years ago" begins which famous speech? The Gettysburg Address, the Emancipation Proclamation, or the Farewell Address? The Gettysburg Address. Which musical film features the song "My Favorite Things"? Mary Poppins, The Sound of Music, or Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? The Sound of Music. What film features the line "Nobody puts baby in a corner"? Dirty Dancing, Footloose, or Flashdance? Dirty Dancing. The 1958 Plymouth Fury became famous in what Stephen King story? Cujo, Carrie, or Christine? Christine. What was the first movie to show Elvis Presley on screen? Love Me Tender, Jailhouse Rock, or Blue Hawaii? Love Me Tender. Which European country is shaped like a boot? Croatia, Greece, or Italy? Italy. What pop song from the 1980s begins with the line, "Once upon a time, not so long ago"? Take on Me from Aha, Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi, or Don't Stop Believin', Journey? Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi. Question 78. The Hollywood sign originally said what? Hollywoodland, Welcome to Hollywood, or Movieville? Hollywoodland. Who was the first person to appear on the cover of People magazine? Richard Nixon, Elizabeth Taylor, or Mia Farrow? And interestingly, it is Mia Farrow. Question 80, stay with me. Which U.S. state has the most national parks? Alaska, California, or Utah? California. The movie Titanic used a real ocean liner's interiors for inspiration. Which one was that? RMS Queen Mary, the SS United States, or the RMS Britannic? The RMS Queen Mary. Which political figure was known as the Happy Warrior? Franklin Roosevelt, Hubert Humphrey, or Harry Truman? Hubert Humphrey. What was the name of the first car produced by Tesla? Roadster, Model 3, or Model S? Roadster. What 1960s sitcom featured the character Samantha, a witch married to a mortal? The Munsters, I Dream of Jeannie, or Bewitched? Bewitched. In The Godfather, What fruit often symbolizes death? An orange, a pear, or an apple? An orange. The term Camelot became associated with which U.S. presidency? Ronald Reagan, Franklin D. Roosevelt, or John F. Kennedy? John F. Kennedy. And we are on question 87. What band was originally named the Quarrymen? The Kinks, the Rolling Stones, or the Beatles? And the answer is the Beatles. The quote, "It's alive," comes from which 1931 horror film? Dracula, Frankenstein, or The Mummy? Frankenstein. In The Sound of Music, what were the names of the youngest two Von Trapp children? Louisa and Frederick, Liesel and Brigitta, or Gretel and Martha? Gretel and Martha. Question 90. What 1970s sitcom was set in a Milwaukee brewery? Mork and Mindy, Happy Days, or Laverne and Shirley? Laverne and Shirley. What a great show that was. What river runs through the Grand Canyon? The Rio Grande, the Colorado River, or the Mississippi River? The Colorado River. The line, "I see dead people," comes from which 1999 film? Stir of Echoes, The Others, or The Sixth Sense? The Sixth Sense. In what movie does Clint Eastwood say, "Go ahead, make my day"? Dirty Harry, Sudden Impact, or Magnum Force? Sudden Impact. The original Grease movie takes place in what decade? The 1960s, 1970s, or 1950s? The 1950s. Moving along. What is the world's largest desert? The Antarctic, the Arabian, or the Sahara? The Antarctic. What TV series featured the characters Archie and Edith Bunker? Cyndi Lauper, Maude, or All in the Family? All in the Family. In which film does a young girl's head spin 360 degrees? Carrie, The Omen, or The Exorcist? The Exorcist. Which U.S. landmark features the words, "Give me your tired, you're poor"? The Lincoln Memorial, Ellis Island, or the Statue of Liberty? The Statue of Liberty. The novel To Kill a Mockingbird was set in what fictional town? Harperville, Mississippi, Greenbow, Alabama, or Maycomb, Alabama? Maycomb, Alabama. And we are at question 100. In what movie does the main character say, "Here's Johnny," while breaking down a door? Halloween, The Shining, or Psycho? The Shining. And our bonus question. The hit song Hotel California was performed by which band? Let us know the answer in the comments and, of course, how well you did with our Quiz Class Einstein rewards. Thanks for playing, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.